Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to another Quran study today. Um, we're going to be reading from Surah 12, Joseph, and we'll be starting with verse 15. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Verse 15 is titled, Believers are blessed with God's assurances. When they went away with him and unanimously decided to throw him into the abyss of the well, we inspired him. Someday you will tell them about all this while they have no idea. So, as the title says, God reassures us, the believers. And it's really good because the believers, or submitters, will hold on to this reassurance, right? To help to help us through the test when it gets difficult. So this is something good that we can keep in the back of our mind, and that's why it's titled blessed. Because it's really, this reassurance is a blessing. So, excuse me, moving on to the next verse. They came back to their father in the evening, weeping. They said, Our father, we went racing with each other, leaving Joseph with our equipment, and the wolf devoured him. You will never believe us, even if we were telling the truth. They produced his shirt with fake blood on it. He said, Indeed, you have conspired with each other to commit a certain scheme. All I can do is resort to a quiet patience. May God help me in the face of your conspiracy. So we see here, excuse me, we see here the deception of Joseph's brother. What their scheme was, and the lies that came back and told their Joseph's father, Jacob. It's interesting to see that they bear witness about Jacob's distrust of them. Even if they were being truthful, and I mean, even at the time there was no honesty and truth in them anyway. But this maybe says something about maybe why Jacob felt his way. I mean, even before this stuff happened to his sons, because even if let's say they said, even if we were telling the truth about a matter, you wouldn't believe us. And that's probably because the truth isn't in them. I mean, at least at this point in their lives. So Jacob realizes and realizes they're scheming, and we see how he responds exactly how one who submits to God responds, which is quiet patience and steadfastness in the face of adversities and conspiracies, etc. So this is like a good example, and shows us that stuff like this can come up in our lives, that test our trust in God, and it also, tests our beliefs and convictions that He is running everything right. So may God help us come to a solid, unshakable faith like this, consistently too. That's super important. May God help us. Verse 19, Joseph is, it's titled, Joseph is taken to Egypt. A caravan passed by and soon sent their waterer. He let down his bucket and said, How lucky, there's a boy here. They took him along as merchandise, and God was fully aware of what they did. They sold him for a cheap price, a few dirhams. I don't know if I pronounced that right. For they did not have any need of him. The one who bought him in Egypt said to his wife, Take good care of him. Maybe he can help us, or maybe we can adopt him. We thus established Joseph on earth, and we taught him the interpretation of dreams. God's command is always done, but most people do not know. So we see here that God's plan is always the best. Despite in the schemes of the evildoers, He'll always make it to where the believers triumph, and truth is triumphs. Even little known to his brothers and the governor, etc. Joseph is in the process of being established on earth, through all these matters. And we also see here that Joseph is blessed with being able to interpret dreams. These are blessings bestowed by God to the appreciative. And another thing, excuse me, at the end of the verse, we see that it says God's command is always done, but most people do not know. So this affirms the truth, in that whatever we will is in the will within the whatever we will is in the accordance with the will of God, Lord of the universe, and that's a verse I really like. That's actually taken from Surah 81. So these are good reminders for us. So next verse: when he reached maturity, we endowed him with wisdom and knowledge. We thus reward the righteous. So God, we see here that God rewards those who are righteous and appreciative. Wisdom, it's interesting to look at this, because wisdom and knowledge is referred to as a reward here, because it's really a huge blessing from God, because ultimately, with wisdom and knowledge, it'll allow us to re-enter God's kingdom, because we know the truth, right? And we know the right things to do, all the things that please God, and we know we know the difference between the right path and the wrong path, which is laid out for us in the Quran. Thank God. Next verse, we see its title: God protects the believers from sin. So the lady of the house where he lived tried to seduce him. She closed the doors and said, "I am all yours." He said, "May God protect me. He is my Lord who gave me a good home. The transgressors never succeed." So this verse has a footnote, and I'll go ahead and read the end. So verse 23's footnote says, Joseph worded this statement in such a way that the governor's wife thought that he was talking about her husband, when in fact he was talking about God. So, Joseph's response is really great, and he fully recognizes that the transgressors never succeeds, and we see him imploring God for help, which she ended up receiving. She almost succumbed to him, and he almost succumbed to her. If it were not for that he saw proof from his Lord, we thus diverted evil and sin away from him, for he was one of the devoted servants. So this verse tells us, that Joseph, he saw some kind of proof, whatever it may have been at the time, but it was definitely, he saw a proof of some sort that triggered him to pretty much evacuate from this really bad situation, and get out of there before he fell into sin. And also in the verse, excuse me, I'm sorry. The ending of the verse, we see that this verse, it shows that God is fully aware of the righteous, and he'll see to it that they succeed and do not fall into, such great sins, right? And it also, goes on to say that Joseph was a devoted servant. That's really being called a devoted servant. That's a truly remarkable position to be in. It's very honorable. So moving on to the next verse, the two of them raced towards the door, and in the process she tore his garment from the back. They found her husband at the door. She said, "What should be the punishment for one who wanted to molest your wife, except imprisonment or a painful punishment?" He said, "She is the one who tried to seduce me." A witness from her family suggested, "If his garment is torn from the front, then she is telling the truth and he is a liar. And if his garment is torn from the back, then she lied and he is telling the truth." So we read, so these, we can see here in these last three verses, there's a pretty huge dispute going on between the governor, his wife, and Joseph. And we see that a witness intervened, I guess is, some sort of arbitrator in the matter. Because, you got one person saying this and the other person saying that. And this is God's system. It's perfect, and there's always a way. There's always going to be some type of way, inevitably, to expose falsehood and lies. Moving on to the next verse. When her husband saw that his garment was torn from the back, he said, "This is a woman's scheme. Indeed, your scheming is formidable." Joseph, disregard this incident. As for you, my wife, you should seek forgiveness for your sin. You have committed an error. Um, so it's important to note the precedent example that's set here. That being, the truth always prevails, and falsehood is always exposed, because that's exactly what falsehood is. It's not real, so it can't even really exist except as a temporary illusion, But it's never going to prevail, So we also see read here that the husband notes that her scheming was, by use of the word formidable. He notes that her scheming was very wrong and sinful, hence, using the word formidable. And he also treats Joseph kindly after this incident and tells him to disregard this incident. It was kind of, and I guess his last response, we see in the manner of which he responded to his wife, indicates. I mean, he maybe he could be a believer of some sort, as he's inviting his wife to repent, right, for his transgression. Which I'm not sure if. This kind of says something about him, but I'm not too sure. But that's good nonetheless. So the next two verses, some women in the city gossip. The governor's wife is trying to seduce her servant. She is deeply in love with him. We see that she has gone astray. When she heard of their gossip, she invited them, prepared for them a comfortable place, and gave each of them a knife. She then said to him, "Enter their room." When they saw him, they so admired him that they cut their hands. They said, "Glory be to God, this is not a human being, this is an honorable angel." So if we, there's a footnote associated with verse 31, and I'll go ahead and read that. It says, "This is the same word used in Surah 5, verse 38, regarding the hand of the thief. And the sum of Surah and verse numbers 12 plus 31, the verse we just read, and then 5, Surah 5, verse 38 are the same, which, each of them are 43. Therefore, the thief's hand should be marked, not severed, as practiced by corrupted Islam. See footnote 538. So this is like a huge proof. This is just another, just more evidence, and reveals more. It reveals even further that the Quran has divine authorship, right? Because you don't just have you can see the placement and the arrangement, like these verses, the specific surah number, right, with the topic it's talking about, with this specific verse number, and the content that it's talking about, right? Talking about a knife and in the hand, and the subject matter, and then we look at the verse from Surah 5, verse 38, and you can quickly see that these are blessings and like mercies to the believers, right? Because it strengthens our faith, and shows us the truth as well. This should be proof for anyone. It deals with it pretty much closes and affirms the matter, which deals with marking the thief instead of chopping it off, because even logically, that doesn't make any sense to cut it off. If someone were to take, let's say, 5 loaves of bread from you at the time, right, and you called him, well, if his hands are gone, how would he be able to go work for the guy down the street in order to pay back, your 5 loaves of bread? So God's system is perfect, but the transgressors, the fabricators that alter the Quran, they're all eventually exposed, with their outlandish thinking. Okay, verse 32, she said, "This is the one who you blamed me for falling in love with. I did indeed try to seduce him, and he refused. Unless he does what I command him to do, he will surely go to prison and will be debased." He said, "My lord, the prison is better than giving in to them. Unless you divert their scheming from me, I may desire them and behave like the ignorant ones." So, and we read here in the verses that the governor's wife, she's admitting to her sin, right? But we can still see here she hasn't repented, given the way she's acting towards Joseph, and what type of I guess things she's commanding him to do. So which brings me to saying, in the next verse, it's implied that the governor's wife and possibly her friends are scheming and commanding him to do something probably immorally. As we're told, Joseph is seeking refuge in God, once again, lest he may fall into sin and desire them. And it's also noteworthy, something I really like, I've always liked about this. It's noteworthy to point out Joseph's intelligence here, that he realizes the cost, right? The cost of sinning, and that imprisonment, albeit it's a form of adversity, and it's by no means it's easy or it's fun, especially in that time too, because modern day, not to get off topic, but just putting things into perspective. Who knows what type of, if you even had a bed to sleep on, or it's just stuff to think about. Like today's prison systems, are pretty well organized, and you're confined, but you do have a sense of there's still you can still be treated pretty humanely. But this type of imprisonment, who knows, what it's serious. That's the point I'm trying to make. But we see his intelligence here, where he said it would still be far better for him, right, if it keeps him away from the possibility of sinning in the manner he's facing, with the situation that's going on. His Lord answered his prayer and diverted their scheming from him. He is the hearer, the omniscient. Later, they saw to it, despite the clear proofs, that they should imprison him for a while. So, alhamdulillah, God answered his prayer. We also read here that they eventually decided that they will imprison Joseph despite most likely getting warning signs that they should leave him be. So I'm assuming it's referring, to the governor's wife and her friend, given the context of the previous verses. But, maybe it could also perhaps be some other authoritative figure that carried out the exact order to imprison him. But regardless, that was his fate. That was all part of the divine plan, to establish Joseph on earth. Verse 36, 2 young men were in the prison with him. One of them said, "I saw myself in a dream that I was making wine," and the other said, "I saw myself carrying bread on my head, from which the birds were eating. Inform us of the interpretation of these dreams. We see that you are righteous." He said, "If any food is provided to you, I can inform you about it before you receive it. This is some of the knowledge bestowed upon me by my Lord. I have forsaken the religion of people who do not believe in God, and with regard to the hereafter, they are really disbelievers." So Joseph's prison mates, are asking and inquiring about their dreams, as they recognize Joseph to be righteous, and full of piety and full of wisdom, and I guess with his response, it seems that he can inform them on the basis of receiving food. It seems maybe someone can elaborate, pose discussion, God willing, if y'all have any thoughts on that. Joseph, also goes on to promoting the truth and proclaiming God alone, while forsaking the false religions of the people around him, and possibly, everything what possibly was being practiced through Egypt at the time. So he's warning and also inviting these people. We can see in the next verse, he says, "And I followed instead the religion of my ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We never set up any idols besides God. Such is the blessing from God upon us and upon the people, but most people are unappreciative." So Joseph is telling them of the true religion that's been passed down from his ancestors. It's also important to note that the first thing he says after this, it has to do with setting up idols besides God. Because when I looked at this verse and then read it again, it just emphasizes, the very next thing he went to was he said we never set up any idols besides God. So this is as this is it's the most important one, and the reason behind our test and the cause basically for our initial creation has to do with this. So this is good, that he says this, because it emphasizes, the sheer importance of not falling into idolatry, because everything else will be nullified if you do, right? Next verse, "O my prison mates, are several gods better, or God alone, the one, the supreme? You do not worship him. You do not worship beside him except innovations that you have made up, you and your parents. God has never authorized such idols. All ruling belongs to God, and he has ruled that you shall not worship except him. This is the perfect religion, but most people do not know." So he asked them the rhetorical question, right, about being a polytheist and having several gods, or worshiping the one God, the only God that always has been and ever will be. And and another thing, it also it shows that believers will be happy, and really they only prefer God alone. The one, the supreme. Like they'll be happy. They're not just like having to worship God, right? Or like, okay, you're told worship God alone, disown idolatry, right? And they do that, but submitters or believers will actually, like that'll be their favorite choice. Like it'll make them happy. They'll instinctively prefer this over the polytheists, or false multiple gods. Because why wouldn't you want to devote all your heart, mind, body, and soul to the one God, versus this spread out like butter devotion, just nonsense across all these false idols and gods. It's just just a bunch of extra nothing. Idolatry, it's the greatest sin, because it deprives a man or woman entirely of faith, and consequently of God. So, hence, the importance of never falling into it, God willing. So the next verse, last verse for the study, says, "Oh, my prison mates, one of you will be the wine butler for his Lord, while the other will be crucified. The birds will eat from its head. This settles the matter about which you have inquired." We read here that Joseph answers their questions about the dreams, after both warning them and inviting them to the path of God in great lengths, spoken really with profound wisdom. And it also signifies Joseph's continual steadfastness in this prison, right? Because we see what's occupying his mind, right? What he's talking about, and what God. We have it written in the Quran, his responses, and the stuff he's saying in this situation, despite his circumstances. So it's a really honorable thing to see, and it sets a great example and lesson for us submitters, to learn from, and a good reminder that the steadfastness in the face of adversity is I even think, if I remember, it's an honorable trait, and it refers to it as being honorable. I think in Surah Luqman, Surah 31, it named a few things about traits of the believers, but steadfastness in the face of adversity is an honorable trait. So, and we see that here, with Joseph, and it'll be well worth it, and it'll pay off in the end, if we take heed from it. Thank you, God. So, inshallah, uh, the we can close the reading, um, and open up the floor for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, mashallah.
Mashallah, brother.
Mashallah, thank you.
Praise.
Mashallah, brother. Thank you.
MashaAllah, brother. Thank you.
Mashallah, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to, inshallah, highlight just the importance of being um, God's servant and just the benefit that comes with being God's servant. So, in the story we just read, like in 12:33, it says, He said, My Lord, the prison is better than giving in to them. Unless you divert their scheming from me, I may desire them and behave like the ignorant ones. So he's calling on his Lord, and in the next verse it says, His Lord answered his prayer and diverted their scheming from him. He is the hearer, the omniscient. And just this the importance of being God's servant is that our Creator actually hears our prayers, and for our benefit, He will assist us, to on the right direction, and for like for the seductive actions that um, he was tested with. He refused. He refused to fall for it. And the key thing here is just he called on his Lord, which in a lot of tests that we go through, all we can do is surrender and call on our Lord and ask for the guidance towards the right path. So I want to just highlight that he didn't fall into their schemes, especially for seduction and enticing women. And then when the women is just like, hey, I'm all yours. He didn't fall, and to turn that towards just surrendering to God and calling on Him in any test, any situation. Our Lord hears our prayers.
Yeah, mashallah, it's a good point, that imploring God for help in all our situations is because, like in the contact prayer, you alone we worship, you alone we ask for help, so that's a good example set for us in the Quran. Because when we try to do things on our own or turn to other people, and I mean, as I don't want to jump the gun, but as I think the next page and verses talk about later on, Joseph's situation when he was asking, I think, one of the butlers to remember him. But I'll leave that for next discussion, inshallah.
Yeah, mashallah. I want to talk about verse 23, inshallah, where God says he protects the believers from the sin. And we know that this is God's promise. At the time of the great feud, when Satan was saying that he would divert all the human being from God, God says, you don't have any power over my devoted servants. And now God says, because he was a devoted servant, he diverted the sin from him. SubhanAllah, because God's promise is always true. And I found that very beautiful. That such an example has been included in the Quran. Praise God. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was when Joseph was in prison and he was preaching God. So what Messenger said about that verse was that you see that Joseph is in prison, but preaching God alone, worshiping God alone. And it doesn't matter what condition he is in, he worships God alone. So what it teaches us is that you should have patience. You should have patience in all situations, and you should steadfastly persevere. And you must prove that you will believe in God in any circumstances. God always watches over the believers. And then Messenger says that, God wants to tell the angels and the Satan that this is my creature that worships me alone, no matter what situation that person is. And when you reach that point of despair and you still believe in worship God alone, Messenger says that you are guaranteed kingship on earth. And that's what happened to Joseph. Again, that's God's promise, which is amazing. And, God says, whatever I say is the truth, and God's promise is the truth. Praise God. So when we read these verses about God's promise and what God says, we should have absolute belief that these are truth and things will come to pass. What God has promised will come, and whatever He has asked us to do will get us where He has promised to get us. If we're believers and lead a righteous life, God will see to it that we get the guidance. We stay in the right path. He will divert the sin from us, and He promises the gardens of Eden to the believers. And if you don't believe, and if you don't live the righteous life the way that God has told us, God has said the hell is awaiting them. And so these are the examples that God has included within the Quran to provide, I think, some more context about all this that we read. Praise God.
MashaAllah, and we should also remember that, praise be to God, the path that was open to Joseph, went through the prison. We we might assume that if God is going to give us a way out of a situation that is supposed to be really, easy, and that's supposed to be something that we can imagine, that's something we assume is good, But then we have God's blessings in disguise. And I think this prison was a blessing in disguise, because, as the messenger of the covenant also mentioned, it was like a school that from which the messenger, Joseph graduated. And so he needed this time, to maybe develop, his soul. There was something behind it that Joseph just submitted to, and he believed in God, and that God has the best for him, had the best for him. So not every situation in our life might be perfect. Praise be to God, for submitters is perfect. But if it is a blessing in disguise, we should just, just accept it and know that we are in God's hand the whole time. Praise be to God.
Mashallah, Brother John, for the awesome Quran study. Mashallah, it was really good. I wanted to also make a comment on verse 15, that believers are blessed with God's assurance. SubhanAllah. This is really interesting, where it says, went away with him and unanimously decided to throw him into the abyss of the well. We inspired him. Someday you will tell them about all this while they have no idea. So just think about it like a situation which seems so dire, and there are some people who are conspiring against you, and they're scheming against you, and you have no control over it. Actually, I mean, Joseph, as the messenger of God, was inspired by this idea that someday he will tell them, the brothers of his, that about all this while they have no idea, while they don't know. And we see down the road, in other verses, at the end of the account of the history of Joseph, that he actually tells them, and they say that yes, they say that when they are in the palace of the king, they say that you must be Joseph, and he says, yes, I am Joseph, and this is my brother. So, and this is really interesting how we have this subtitle here, that believers are blessed with God's assurance, that you don't need to worry about anything. Even if the situation seems so dire, there's something in it, and God willing, something good will come out of it, as long as you just abide by the rules and commandments of the of God. Subhanallah.
Mashallah, I wanted to add something that what I said previously doesn't include the pinches and consequences. Alhamdulillah, we have learned the situations that we get pinches and consequences that we immediately know, praise be to God, we immediately understand that we did something maybe a day ago, 2 days ago. This has been the case for me. And we repent, and God protects us and help us throughout that pinch. Again, we are in God's hand, mashallah, but sometimes things happen out of nowhere, and you have been, inshallah, trying to be steadfast. You have been following God's commandments, and then something happens, like in the case for Joseph. He was following God's commandment. He didn't fall in for the woman. And then yet he ended up in prison, which is a blessing in disguise. It was not a pinch for him. I was talking about Joseph. But yeah, of course, as Brother Suleiman made a comment here, there are pinches and consequences that we shouldn't mix them up with blessings in disguise. We should always evaluate ourselves and check what we are doing, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Yeah, brothers. Suleiman commented Satan is always wanting to smite us, and he's such a crybaby, and that's so true. He'll look for any reason to target us and try to make a claim on us. So it's must be our due diligence to seek refuge in God constantly. And I guess since we're talking about that, that's I did I did something kind of a few months ago, but I printed something out, to hang it on my wall. Surah 113 and 114, and in that verse from Surah 23, the believers, and just doing it throughout the day. And it's when I'm driving or I'm walking around somewhere, and it's really helpful, and then I guess you could call those little snacks for the soul.
What verse was that you printed out? What was the verse?
It was the Rabia Bikman Amazati team. I should know the verse. I apologize. But I just remember it's in, I think, Surah 23. I think the messenger said it was mathematically coded too.
Yes, it is. Yes,
yeah. Really, I've even, I've that's like one of my favorite ones.
The last verse is also mathematically coded in Surah 23. The believers is also my favorite, one of the favorite. These two are, mashallah, they are the go-to when, when we want to repent constantly, inshallah, and also seek refuge in God. These two verses are old, mashallah.
MashaAllah, I just learned something new. I didn't know those last two were also. I'm gonna have to print those out, God willing.
Brother, 97, 98 of 23.
Yes, Masud. Yes.
Okay, mashallah. Okay, yes, this is how they are mathematically coded, mashallah. The numerical value, the geometrical value, is a multiple of 19. Subhanallah. And also, the last verse that Shima said of this should be 23, not 24. Sorry. This Rabbi Ighfir warham wa anta khairur rahimin is also multiple of 19. And in one of the sermons of Dr. Rashad Khalifa, he was mentioning that La ilaha illallah is also a multiple of 19. So if you just put all the numbers next to each other, you get a multiple of 19 out of it. Subhanallah. This is completely just great.
SubhanAllah. That's so awesome.
Yeah. Yes, and then there's also inshallah, which I tried the different things with it, and then the last thing that I did was to just sum, like you get the sum of all the letters, and then it is also a multiple of 19. Subhanallah.
Yeah, and it's it really worked too, because like just situations, and And it's also that it's so true about the verse that says, I wish I could think of it off the top of my head, but it says something like those who really believe, when the devil whispers an idea to them, they immediately seek refuge, so that also implies, so like we recognize, okay, if this little thought comes to us, like let's say we're driving or we're wherever we are, we can see it for what it is, or I mean, even if we're alone in our home and something, we immediately recognize that those thoughts, and we seek refuge, so that's and it works, that's another thing. It's I mean, um, mashallah. I mean, even in dreams, I've had a few dreams one time where it got me out of a bad dream.
MashaAllah, John. Yeah, what you're speaking on about bad dreams, I just had one just recently. And the only way I get out of those type of dreams is it's like just mentioning God one time. It's like all the bad just goes away. And it's weird. I've had like those type of dreams where it'll just be like a negative energy. I'm sleeping, come across me, and striving to shake me up and fear, and put fear inside of me. But each and every time, it's like when I just mention God, or if I just mention God at all, it's that negative entity just becomes invisible. But I did want to speak on one more thing though in the what we read, and just see if we can pull some highlight from the father, um, and Joseph's father. Um, so he knew that they were producing a conspiracy, and he knew that they were producing a certain scheme, and his father said, "All I can do is resort to a quiet patience." And this quiet patience, at the same time, like servants of God in certain schemes resort to a quiet patience, whether it's like sternly or or it's more on the subtle side. But his father, I think his father was a good example. Maybe Joseph was looking up to his father and seeing his father was righteous, because his father always just called on God. Even throughout Joseph's story, his father continued to call on God and resorted to a patience. Even though his other brothers, the devil had driven a wedge between his brothers, um, and they were committing wrong things against him. Um, just the highlight I wanted to take from just this part, and specifically, was the resorting to a quiet patience that we even have to go towards a lot of the times when situations come across us. The father, so they 12:17, they said, "Our father, we went racing with each other, leaving Joseph with our equipment, and the wolf devoured him. You will never believe us, even if we were telling the truth." And the shirt was produced with fake blood, and the father just knew. He just knew that there was some sort of. He said, "Indeed, you have conspired with each other to commit a certain scheme." There's just some sort of angle that I want to say a submitter to God has when it comes to schemes. In front of them, they're able to just see whether something is righteous or not righteous. Um, but yeah, mashallah. Yeah, that was something I wanted to highlight. Just the quiet patience that we resort to in certain situations that we go through. Inshallah.
MashaAllah. Masood, could you please bring up that file that you were showing previously? There has been a discussion whether MashaAllah was in that or not. It was just
No,
inshallah, right?
yeah, inshallah. Yeah, I mentioned, yeah, I didn't find anything with mashallah. Probably I did it the wrong way. I'm just working on it right now as we are speaking.
So inshallah and la ilaha illallah are
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just share the screen. So, okay. So here, la ilaha illallah is a multiple of 19. If you just put all the numbers one after one another, okay. And then there is inshallah. If you just add them all together and you get the multiple of 19. Yes, the adhan is also a multiple of 19. Yes, mashallah, brother. Yeah. I mean, it's so beautiful when we know the things that we are saying, you know, and like the contact prayers that we are doing every day, and the words that we are saying, they're all just mathematically coded. It's so beautiful. So we have proof for it that it's not just some random thing that we are doing. It's divinely ordained, and when we do that, we get in direct connection with God, subhanallah. It's like, for example, you want to enter a password to a computer, and the password is like, for example, 24434, right? And it's a multiple of 19. And now if some people come and say that, no, I mean, we want to add a 2 before or after this number, then it wouldn't be a password. Like, it wouldn't be the password of that computer anymore. It could be a password, but it's not the password of that computer, and it wouldn't open. And if you persist and like enter the wrong password several times, you're going to be locked out at least for 15 minutes, right? I don't know what would happen after that if you enter the wrong password consistently. At least that's the thing with the websites. Like, you have, for example, 4 choices. 4 attempts. If you get it wrong, probably the account will be locked for security purposes. So God has designed this, that we do the exact thing that, you know, the Messenger of Covenant told us to do, and we have the mathematical proof behind it. And if people don't do it, that's a large majority of so-called Muslims, who are basically corrupt Muslims in the world and traditionalists. They are just doing prayers. They are doing contact prayers. They're long, you know, but it's useless because they are just putting the name of Muhammad in their adhan, or they are putting they're adding to the number of the steps of the ablution, or they are even adding prayers to the number of the prayers. So that they're just like messing everything up, and instead of getting in touch with God, they're getting in touch with Satan. Because if God didn't order you to do that, who ordered you to do that? That's basically Satan, right? So subhanallah, it's a great blessing that we know that when we are doing the prayers, the contact prayers, it's mathematically coded, and we have the proof for it, and we are getting in touch with God, inshallah.
MashaAllah, since I realized that inshallah is I remember we learned it like last year, that inshallah is a multiple of 19. I try to always say it in the full form, like inshallah, because Persians, like Iranians, they say inshallah. You know, they change the whole formula, and you know, we can't risk it. If it is a multiple, you know, we are supposed to say it completely inshallah.
Yeah, and it's a commandment, so we have to say it. We have to say the exact form. And now that we know it's a multiple of 19, it actually gives us the proof as well that when we are saying that, basically we are just like getting in touch with God, subhanallah. So, inshallah.
Yeah, mashallah. It reminds me, I was even watching or rewatching a video from the Messenger. I think he was talking about, you know, there's like a divine rhythm and beauty behind, like, it's not, you know, like the contact prayers, right? You know, and these things we're told to recite for our own benefit, and then the prayers, it's not just like, well, I guess what I'm saying is he went on to explain, you know, there's a sacred harmony and divine rhythm behind it, you know, kind of like touching on what Brother Masood and Sister Shima were saying. You know, it's important to So the meaning is very important, but it's also, as we were just talking about, it's mathematically coded, so it's a divine, it's from our creator, every syllable and the way we utter it, and not uttering these extra uh words and stuff, and I guess it would like break the code, if you start adding in other pieces of code or nonsense, everything just falls apart, and I mean, God commands us too, so it's another thing. I was explaining to somebody one time, it was I talked to him like maybe several months ago, but he's I think, he's a traditional Sunni. He's from Lebanon, but they're under the impression, and I'm sure we know all this, but like they're under the impression that like more is better. Like they think, oh, because I'm doing more wudu steps, like I'm being more righteous, and or I'm adding in all these extra things, and I'm like, no, more is not always better. I said, think of it like this. So like if you had the boss of your company, and he tells you to go pick 5 oranges, right? And that's all he wants. He wants 5 oranges from his tree or whatever. And then your coworker, right, sits there and tells you, no, go pick 9. I mean, who are you gonna listen to? Like, you would really look like a fool if you're gonna listen to your coworker and go pick 9 oranges, versus like the CEO boss. He said, look, all I want is 5. Like, I want 5 oranges. I don't, and then, he kind of, I guess, understood it from that example. But I mean, I guess, if I hope that was a good example, but it just goes to show that like more isn't always better. It's just it gets to be a point, like I was telling him, it's just a utter sign of disobedience. It doesn't matter if you think, well, your boss knows best. Maybe five oranges is better than 9. I mean, who are you to say that more is better in this regard? But that's, I guess, the point I'm making is just to expose their logic that they try to use about that.
Mashallah, I wanted to clarify something. Previously, I said inshallah is mathematically coded and, it's good to use the full form. I didn't mean to use that in English when you're speaking in English, with an English speaker, like in a English community, it's good to say God willing, to remind also to fulfill your own duty as a submitter, also reminding people in their native language, which is like God willing. That there's nothing wrong with that. The goal is to remember God. Okay, and to recognize the fact that anything that is going to happen is by God's will, and I submit to His will, and I have no role, and God is doing everything. That's the whole purpose. But inshallah is a commonly used term in Farsi in among Iranians. I was just hinting at the point that if they change the form into inshallah, that's not exactly the same word, and it doesn't make any sense in Farsi either. That's why I was trying to say that if they're speaking in Farsi, it's good to say inshallah, because inshallah doesn't make any sense neither in Arabic nor in Farsi, or they can use the Farsi equivalent for that in their language. That was the point I was trying to make. MashaAllah.
Yeah, brother Suleiman. Right. Yes, it does. So that's that same. He said that's the same logic that Moshe Tucson used to promote circumcision, extra credit. Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, how, like if you go back to your CEO with 9 oranges and the CEO is like, okay, where's the 5 oranges? And you're like, oh, well, no, I picked you 9. My coworker told me to pick you 9. So I picked you 9, and I mean, you would look like a buffoon. I mean, you literally be it's a slap in the face and telling them you're preferring you listen to your coworker over your CEO. It doesn't matter what he asked, but yeah, it's really flawed logic. Mashallah. And I mean, I even think there's a parable that Jesus gave that was real similar. Might have been the vineyard one, but just basically not obeying what God asked you to do. So, do we have any off-topic questions, God willing? Brother Sam asked the question.
Probably it would be a good idea that I share the screen and show the text.
MashaAllah. Yeah, and it really goes to show their lack of belief in God, and just uh, being complete hypocrite. Because I mean, there's so many points where the messenger. I mean, I've saved it as audio clips and videos where I mean, he tells you right, plain and simple. If you follow any other source, right, as religious guidance other than the Quran, you're an idol worshiper. And so we see that they are. And there's no such thing as them saying, "Oh no, it's not for religious guidance," because I mean we all know, going back into the history, that the only reason this was done was performed as some type of religious ritual. So it's always going to be they can't claim otherwise.
And it is also interesting that we don't have anything in the literature of submission about circumcision. We don't have anything. It's not mathematically proven. It is not in the Quran. The Messenger of the Covenant didn't talk about it. If it is so important, and these people are, yes, if it is so important that these people are just like saying that this is part of the religion, how is it possible that the Messenger of God didn't talk about it? And if like for example, say, yeah, and if like for example, the next question comes here. Okay, so we have the verse in Quran that clearly states how to do the right ablution, right? So there was something wrong with ablution. People were doing a lot of steps, and then we have a verse in Quran that says exactly 4 steps, what to do exactly, right? And if we have, like, for example, we have, there was one person, so-called Shia, that I was discussing ablution with, and he was saying that what difference does it make that if you make the water flow from your elbows toward your hand or from your hand toward your elbows? I said that, look at the Arabic text. It says el al marafiq, toward, to. It doesn't say from. It doesn't say min al marafiq. It says, even the Quran is this detailed, that we have exact preposition when we are, for talking about something. So if circumcision is part of the religion, which it is not, why don't we have anything about it? And even if if you look in the Genesis section of the Torah, the Old Testament, you see that just out of context, out of nowhere, I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. God tells Abraham that, okay, from tomorrow, every 8-day old male child should be circumcised, including you and all the males that are. So just think about it, like a person who is like 100 years old, right, or something, should just go and circumcise himself when there is no hygienic system. And how to do it, I mean, it's not even explained in the Torah how to do the circumcision, So it's completely out of context. It doesn't have any logic behind it. It is absolutely a satanic practice, and there is no detail about it, because we have a detail about, we have details about ablution in Quran with this detail, right? But how is it possible that we have circumcision that is like something which has to do with the being hygienic and clean and everything, okay? And we have no detail of it. We have no mention of it in the Quran. We have no reference to it, and it is not even yet, it is not mathematically confirmed. I mean, it's not even mentioned. so how is something which is not mentioned in the Quran part of religion? This is nonsense. This doesn't make sense at all. Everything that the Messenger of the Covenant talked about, we have in the Quran, and we have mathematical proof for it. We have mathematical proof for contact prayers, for how many sujood, how many prostrations, how many, rak'ahs. We have everything. We have mathematical proof, but we have no mathematical proof for such a thing, and it's not even mentioned. So I really don't see the logic behind it. And if these people say that they thought that Dr. Rashad Khalifa said that circumcision is from God, they should just show themselves to a doctor, they should absolutely pay a visit to a doctor. How can you possibly think that Rashad thought that?
Right.
This
They
is nonsense.
probably want to be psychics.
Yeah, this is completely stupid and nonsense. Even I think Brother Suleiman knows better, but I think it was in file 25 that Dr. Khalifa, let me just see whether I can find it. Circumcision. Yes, am I typing it? Yes, no. Circumcision. No. This is circumcision. Okay. Yes. Okay. In file 20, Quran study number 25. Okay. There is one part. There is very one short part, and I think that Brother Suleiman already knows about this. That so Dr. Khalifa is saying that so somebody says something for a very large amount of time, and it's unintelligible. You can't hear what the woman is saying. It's just like here and there. It's very in the background. And then Dr. Khalifa says that okay, we do have a part where we ask general questions, so that falls under general questions. We have to let Robert finish. So there's a Quran study going, and Robert is leading the study in the Masjid Tucson. And Dr. Khalifa said that it will take about 10 minutes to discuss circumcision. After that, we don't have anything in that file that talks about this. I didn't hear anything about it. And the interesting thing is that, when that woman was talking about that thing, which clearly sounded like circumcision, because that's why Dr. Khalifa talks about that. We're going to talk about circumcision. Dr. Khalifa was like laughing, a little bit, and like chuckling, at what the woman was saying, and said that it would take about 10 minutes to discuss circumcision. So if it was part of the religion, if it was so important, if it was, something that absolutely had to be done, okay. So first of all, we should have had it in Quran. Second of all, there should have been mathematical proof for it. Third of all, the Messenger of God should have mentioned it somewhere. Messenger of God has sermon about everything, right? Every topic that we are dealing with, but we don't have any topic related to circumcision. So he couldn't have come, obviously, forward to talk about every nonsense practice which is practiced in the Muslim world, in the traditionalist and corrupt Muslim world. And if this was so important, it was part of the religion, definitely he would have come forward and talked about it. But he didn't. So those people in the Masjid Tucson that say that, we thought that Messenger thought this, this is absolutely nonsense.
Right, mashallah. I also want to point out, I think we have an extremely strong precedent and example with Abraham, because, if you notice, there's two huge fabrications that are given to Abraham, right? So the dream, and it's noteworthy that both of them are attributed to Abraham, that Abraham, because we see in both parts, God does not command evil. And he does not advocate vice or evil or any of that. So we see that proof, and the evidence that it wasn't God who commanded Abraham to slaughter his son. That's all that's made up, right? So if we were to take that and look at the other thing, that should, for most people, that should act as like a precedent and example for the circumcision thing. It's the same exact case with that, So I don't. I think that's something worth thinking about. That's for a reason.
MashaAllah, brother. MashaAllah. Yes, and this is this file that. Sister Mona, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say something. I remember at the time that we were just having this discussion in our community, they said that because it took 10 minutes for the messenger to explain circumcision to that lady, because we had actually that audio mentioned as well. So that is quite obvious that is part of the religion. If it wasn't part of the religion, it wouldn't have taken such little time for him to explain, And of course, we shouldn't really listen to these people, because I also heard from someone else was saying that, another submitter, that was saying that someone that was with the messenger at a time of messenger mentioned that messenger said circumcision, if you want to do it, you can do it. Obviously this is a very logical answer, and it makes sense, of course. He said, messenger said, if you want to do circumcision, go ahead and do it, but it is not from God. Which absolutely makes sense. That's actually what I thought. But there are so many people saying that messenger said different things at different times. But what we should really understand is that the messenger clearly said, if it's not in the Quran, you don't accept it. And like logically, where in the Quran God says that you should mark the people without their actual will as believers. So they're referring to that part of Torah where Abraham is told that you circumcise yourself, and all the men. So if one of the men doesn't want to be circumcised, you just have to kick him out. So where in the Quran God says you should mark the believers or like your people physically without their actual will or without they themselves wanting to do it, so that just doesn't make sense. It's quite useless whatever they bring up or whatever argument they've got. It just doesn't make sense, really.
Yeah, it's just wanted to say this real quick. That's just another proof that they are idol worshippers. Because look what Sister Mona just shared. They're going back to the Torah for religious guidance. You know, so they're huge hypocrites. You know, they're not sticking to Quran alone. You know?
Exactly. Sorry, one more thing. In the 1982 audios, Messenger said that Quran should be your one and only source for religious guidance. And I believe somewhere in that audio it says that should also, that I believe that also means the previous scriptures. So we're not to reach out to previous scriptures for religious guidance because of, you know, all the corruptions and all the changes that gone through.
Yes, and also Quran supersedes the previous scriptures. Absolutely. So there's something. Okay, there was a side conversation which was going on as Sister Mona, you were talking. Okay, so you said about that somebody said in the community that somebody was with the messenger talking about this, and that person heard from the messenger that it's not religious, go ahead and do it. And then at the same moment, Brother Suleiman typed, no, he didn't say that. He was talking about aqiqah, if I'm pronouncing that practice correctly. And he said that no, it's not. That's not what the messenger said. And I asked, what is aqiqah? And brother answered, it's a tradition where they give azan and like stuff in children's ear. Yes, we do that. Shias also do that in Iran. When children are born, they say azan in their right ear and iqama in the left ear. If that is what aqiqah means, okay? So I just wanted to say what was going on in the chat as well as we were talking. And the messenger obviously said, do things as long as they're not religious, but that was not about circumcision, you know? So that person, Sister Mona, well, when you were in your community, who was that person that was talked about, who was sitting next to the messenger of God and said that, go ahead and do it? Who was that person?
I was recently informed about this, so I don't know the name of the person, but what I mentioned is not in the audios. So somebody said, I've heard it from someone that was with the messenger that if you want to do it, it's your choice, but it's not from God. So it's not a religious duty to just name it a religious duty. Because I know there are some submitters community that they say if you don't do it, then you're going against God's commandment, which is absolutely like wrong. So that's to clarify. It wasn't in the audio.
No, I know. But my question, okay, so you don't know who was at the time of the messenger of covenant who said that, no? Okay.
No.
All right. So we cannot obviously count on somebody who just said something or didn't say something at the time of the messenger of God, and some people are just like counting on that person when we don't have the proof of it in the audios. You know, we have several audio files, and we can't count on something that might or might not have been said. And if it was so important, then the messenger of God would have talked about it. And the other thing is that, you know, it just came to my mind as you were talking, sister, that, you know, so they said that, okay, so I just showed that obviously in the file, Dr. Khalifa said that it will take about 10 minutes to discuss circumcision. Now, if the logic of those people is that it takes about 10 minutes to discuss circumcision, so it's part of the religion, my logic would be that it's a nonsense, idea, and it only takes 10 minutes to refute it, right? To reject it and say that it's not part of the religion, okay? So that my logic would also be as correct as what they are saying. You know, if they are saying that it takes 10 minutes, it's part of the religion, it takes 10 minutes to talk about it, my idea would be that, no, it's nonsense, and it only takes 10 minutes to talk about it and say that it is nonsense and it's not part of the religion, okay? So that just came to my mind at that moment. And again, it's we have so many reasons for it that why it is not part of the religion than it is part of the religion, because we have it in the Torah. It is not mentioned how to do circumcision, why it needs to be done, what's the purpose behind it. We don't have it in the Quran, you know, like for example, say Sabbath, right? Sabbath was part of the things that the Jews were doing, okay? And it is abrogated in the Quran. We have clear verses in the Quran that state that Sabbath is abrogated. It's done. You were doing it before. It was told you, you were told to do that. Children of Israel, you were told to do that by God. It was a divine commandment. Now, at the time of Quran, done. You don't need to do that anymore. So if somebody keeps doing that from the time that Quran has come, or they know about this, that it is abrogated in the Quran, but they don't believe that Quran is the word of God, they're out of the circle of religion, in this sense that they didn't accept the word of God anymore, okay? But if circumcision was part of the religion at the time of Abraham, if it was part of the religion, something should have been said about it, because Salat was part of the religion at the time of Abraham. It is mentioned in the Quran. Zakat was part of the religion. It is mentioned in the Quran. Hajj was part of the religion. It is mentioned in the Quran. Fasting was part of the religion of Abraham. It is mentioned in the Quran. But circumcision, if it was part of the religion, it is not mentioned in the Quran, and it is not abrogated. So when we don't have anything in the Quran talking about whether it was part of the religion of Abraham, we have nothing, right? We have nothing that it says that it is part of the religion of Abraham. This is one thing. Second, if it was part of the religion of Abraham and it was abrogated, like Sabbath, right? It should have been mentioned. Again, we don't have anything about its abrogation. So when it is not mentioned, it is like many, many other satanic practices out there that Shias and Sunnis are doing, and they are not mentioned in the Quran, and they're part of the Hadith. The only difference between those things and circumcision is that circumcision is mentioned in the Old Testament, in the Genesis section, and it has so much stories about it, but there are many other satanic practices out there that are not mentioned in the Quran, but they are still practiced. And obviously, the Messenger of God didn't have to come forward and talk about every single nonsense and satanic practice and say that this is satanic, this is satanic, this is satanic, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So, I think it doesn't, this sentence that the Messenger of God says that it will take about 10 minutes to discuss it, was that my logic is that it is there simply because it was mentioned in the Old Testament. Dr. Khalifa had to make an extra effort to state that why it is satanic and it is not part of the religion. That's my logic and my understanding. Adding to the idea that it is not mentioned in the Quran, it is not abrogated in the Quran, and there is nothing about it whatsoever. Yeah.
I think Brother Suleiman would like to
Yes,
put in that video. It's a good clip.
Yes, absolutely. Let me just share my screen again, inshallah, to...
Mashallah.
Yes, mashallah. Okay. Can see my screen, right? Okay. Let me just play it.
The Quran, and Salat is mentioned 67 times.
Can you hear the audio?
Yes, brother, we can hear.
Okay, mashallah. Okay, so I'm not gonna stop it anymore. I'm just gonna play it, inshallah.
Now, it turns out you can look at the index of the Quran, and Salat is mentioned 67 times. Zakat is mentioned, I believe, 6 times. No, 32 times. Siyam is 6 times, and Hajj 9 times. What are they? Yeah. Let us add these together. These are the numbers of times these basic duties in Islam are mentioned. 7 and 2 is 9, 15, 24. 2 and 6 is 8, and 3 is 11. 114. The same number of surahs as the Quran. 19 times 6. Okay, that's not the big deal here. But this is profound. But what is really profound is that you take the word salat. Everywhere the word salat is found in the Quran. Take the number of the surah and the numbers of the verses. These are the numbers assigned to the ayat. And you add them up. And the total for salat is 4, 6, 7, 4. This is a multiple of 19. And then you take Siyam. I'm going to take Siyam first. And you do the same thing. You take the numbers of the surahs and the numbers assigned to the verses and add them up. And the total is 1,387. a multiple of 19. This is 19 times 73. You take zakat, the 32 of them, everywhere the word zakat is found in the Quran. You take the number of the surah and the numbers assigned to the verses. And the total is 2395. Now the computer did all this. Now this here is not a multiple of 19. It is up by 1. But then you go to Hajj and you find that the total in the same manner is 645. This is not a multiple of 19. It is down by 1. So, but when you add all of them together, the total, of course, is a multiple of 19. Now, what's the message that this gives us? That salat, every Muslim in the world did salat sometime during his or her life. Every Muslim did. It is the most important duty on every Muslim, salat. And the number is a multiple of 19. Fasting of Ramadan. Every Muslim in the world, before he or she dies, fasted sometime during Ramadan, without exception. Everyone must fast. Every Muslim must fast. Rich or poor, they can do it. Now, zakat is only for the rich. It is not every Muslim pays zakat. And this is reflected in the fact that this is not a multiple of 19. And the same with Hajj, but together they're divisible. They're multiples. There's a message in the numbers also. You can see the extreme intricacy of the numbers and the message that come with them. Not every Muslim in the world made Hajj before he or she died. Not everyone. But everyone made Salat. Everyone fasted. And only the rich pay zakat. This is up 1 and this is down 1. So these are the 5 basic pillars of Islam. That God is one, and I've mentioned it to you, and these 4 basic pillars.
Subhanallah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, mashallah, thank you for sharing this video. I actually watched also this video a couple of times. Anyway, yeah, we discussed about this issue a couple of times also in this Quran study. So, my understanding is like, if it is the part of the religion, so God would keep us, like something, from the messenger of covenant, or in the footnotes, or in the appendices, or in the audio or video, God would preserve for us something that, oh, this is the part of the religion, because God sent the messenger after 1400 years, and most of the people, so will receive the purified message. So if it is the part of the religion, so obviously God would keep something for us, to get the clear message. So that's my understanding. So then we don't have nothing from the messenger of God clearly, and also in the Quran. So so that's my understanding. It's not from the it's not part of the religion. Yeah, that's my understanding to share. Thank you.
Right, and I also think it's it's set up as a test for people, to come, just to further expose people who are, as what the verse says in the Quran, that people who are satisfied with the Quran, or the type of people that when other, stuff is mentioned, stuff from the old scriptures and that's already been proven to have so much falsehood in it. I mean, why would you even pay attention or risk following any of it as a religious practice? So it also challenges people to use their logic and to see, who's really actually following the Quran alone, or they're just gonna choose to fabricate, and follow basically other hadiths, because you can Christian hadiths, if you want to call it that, or falsehood.
Yes, mashallah, brother. Yeah, brother. Yeah, I'm agree. Yeah. So I think this is a kind of loopholes, got allowed to, use Satan to, to expose the real thing in the people's heart, So if you have any disease in our heart, so we'll take those kind of things, So God keep this allowed Satans, to use some kinds of loopholes to expose, the what is inside in the people's heart. That's my also the issue. Not only this one, there is a couple of things. Satans, bringing one by one, to expose the people. Yeah. Mashallah. May God guide us, and may God guide us, always to keep on the right path. Thank you.
MashaAllah. And Brother Suleiman mentioned all true practices given to Abraham have already been removed from the Bible, replaced by circumcision. Yeah, so it's so true, and I mean, if like, even some of these so-called submitters, kind of what I was saying a minute ago, it occurred to me, I mean, if they would look at the other example given to Abraham about that whole thing being distortion, and as it's relied to in the Bible and all that, that just comes from the Bible. I mean, they should look at that and use that as like more evidence that this nonsense, quote unquote, circumcision stuff from Abraham is, once again, it's the same situation with as with the lies attributing to God, right, about God advocating evil. It's the same situation, but for some reason they can't see it that way. It's like, oh well, no, this is different. I mean, they even use their minds to think.
What's interesting is that these submission communities, they go back to this topic over and over. It's like there's nothing else they talk about, and like they're perfect in all their practices, and it's this one that is like stopping them from submitting to God. They just go back to this topic, which shows that Satan has his representatives in these communities, that God willing, God will protect the real submitters from these people. And these discussions is just nonsense. It's just a waste of time. And it shows that people are unappreciative of such a heavy message that you need to keep reading and reading and reading, and refining yourself, inshallah, repenting all the time. Like, what is this that people are so interested in? And they go back, and my understanding is that they're trying to find a link between what their parents practice and what they are commanded to practice as submitters. We are dealing with parents and
Exactly.
and we know that whenever a baby is born, like parents and grandparents, they claim that they have the right to make decisions for that baby, and that could be one incentive, one thing that the couple that God has granted the child, they might they might want to practice submission, yet they see their parents who might be traditionalist or Shia and Sunni, they might insist on this practice, and they are just trying to find a loophole to make this work, to compromise, but it's not worth it. Honestly, it's not worth it. God has granted these people, if they claim to be submitters, God has granted them with a child, a healthy baby boy that they have no right to, amputate or to put that mark on that baby. And there are a lot of health benefits that, God has put in the part that they think they are, they have the right to remove. It's like what if they, they want to cut the baby's ear? That's a crime to them. But this one, no, because it has been practiced, and And they think that they can compromise. Honestly, it's not worth it. We have a limited time in this world, so inshallah we should focus on what we are supposed to do and stay away from these people, inshallah.
I have a question about the off topic, the Salat prayer. Recently, I have noticed, so when the messenger was praying, I recently I noticed a couple of videos. So when he was praying during the bowing and prostration time, so he was, saying like silently, like the Subhana Rabbil Ala, Subhana Rabbil Azim. Those steps look like silently. So, but the other step is like the moderate tone. But when I watched his video about the Salat prayer, so he was, saying everything like in even the bowing and the prostration also the same tone, almost the same tone. So I used to pray always the moderate tone, even the bowing and the prostration position. Always the moderate tone. And but even we go back to the traditional Muslim, the most of the traditional Muslim, they also pray most of the same thing, same way, like when they are doing bowing and prostration, and um, that time they pray silently. So our messenger also pray the same way. So should we follow? Which one should I supposed to do now? In a couple of days, I'm thinking. Should I, do like a moderate tune in even the prostration, in the bowing time and the sujud time? Uh, do you have any idea? Yeah.
I don't think it's a very big thing, because in Quran we have that just do your prayer in a moderate tone, not very loud, not very silently, okay? And uh, uh, when the messenger of God is actually doing the the rest of the prayer, I've also mentioned paid attention to that. You mean like in the Friday prayers, correct, Brother Nizam?
Yeah, Friday prayer, almost a Friday
Yeah,
prayer.
yeah.
After the
Okay.
sermon, I noticed the two,
Yeah,
three,
yeah.
the videos, I was.
Okay. Yes. So I think actually the person who is like in front of the others, the imam should do everything, in a moderate tone, and the ones who are just following should just be silent, during Al-Fatiha. I don't think so. Now another question came up for me. Those who are standing behind the imam for the Friday prayer, should they recite Al-Fatiha or not when they are behind the imam? I don't think they should do that, right?
No,
Okay.
they
They
are not.
shouldn't do that. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. I just had this just this question popped up. Okay, but about your question, Brother Nizam, I think
Can
I
I say
don't think it would make much of a difference. But the Quran says that it should be done in a moderate tone. So that's the whole prayer that should be done in a moderate tone,
Mm-hmm. No, I am thinking maybe this is the practice, the way messenger did of the traditional Muslim, like the silent, to keep silent when bowing and the prostration time, when they prostrate that time, maybe it was the same practice from the that they keep silent, and the other times, when they say Allahu Akbar, that time when they read Surah Al-Fatiha, the moderate tone, only that this time should be silent, so why the messenger did that same way? That's my question.
Well, yeah,
Brother,
right. Yeah,
there is a reason that makes sense that Brother Suleiman is mentioning. It actually makes sense because we know that only Al-Fatiha should be recited in Arabic and the rest could be recited in the person's language. And Messenger of the Covenant was dealing with a community of people from different languages, and he was trying to give them, not trying, he was actually giving them the opportunity to recite it silently, not silently, like in their own language. So he didn't want to disturb them by reciting the Arabic, parts, except for Al-Fatiha. So if you're doing the prayer on your own in your own house, there's no congregation. You follow how the messenger teaches in his educational video, that he actually recites all the parts in moderate tone. When it's in congregation, he keeps quiet for the ruku and sujud, because there are other people behind it who might be willing to study, to recite it in their own language. So that doesn't have anything to do what the corrupted Sunnis are doing. Please don't make that connection. It has to do with the community that are behind him, the congregation that are behind the Messenger of the Covenant, those Friday prayers. They come from different language backgrounds, and they were allowed to recite the ruku and sujud in their native language.
Yeah. So my question is, so when the messenger was, reciting like the Surah Fatiha, so they keep quiet, okay. So when he can do moderate tone, but the other people can recite their, whatever they're saying silently, but the messenger can do like moderate tone. So when he was praying,
he never kept quiet. Why are you saying that he kept quiet? Because Masood and I, when we were trying to follow, and that the way he's conducting the congregational prayer, and he never kept quiet. He was just saying it in a more quiet voice. He was still saying that.
No, yeah. If you was the carefully video, you see, because he has like still the speaker, so that's why we can hear the sound. But you can see he was like saying slowly, like Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, like something like that.
So that's exactly the reason, because there are people behind him in the sermon, in the Friday prayer, and they when they went into the ruku, okay, the ruku, and also in the sujud, position, they also had to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, and also Subhana Rabbiyal Ala. Okay, even like for example, you are saying it one split second ahead of me, and then I am saying it. If you say it loud, then the possibility of me just mixing it up exists, So basically he was saying it in that sound, in that just lower voice, so that he could himself hear it, and at the same time not disturb other people who were also saying that. And other people were also saying that in a lower tone, so that they don't disturb the person next to them, and not to disturb the imam when they were saying it. And also it is allowed to say these expressions in their people's language. Say that, for example, a person who is new to submission and doesn't know how to recite al-Fatiha, and only knows how to say the sujud and the ruku, and for example, these two parts, right? Okay, they can only say it in their English language, but if they say it in English language in large tone, and there's somebody next to them who's saying it, for example, in Arabic in large tone, then everything would get mixed up, everybody would lose their concentration.
No, I just bring up the topic, because recently, I just watching, and there's also one person asked the question. I was also denying. I said, no, we have to. But when I just keep watching this video again and again, and I also thinking, oh, what?
Yeah, you can explain this. Yeah, you can explain this to your friend. This is the reason, because people are allowed to say it in their own language, and even if they're all saying it in Arabic, if I say, for example, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, and then you start saying it one split second after I do, I might lose my concentration for saying that. You know what I mean? Or how many times I said it. But if everybody says that in a lower tone, then everybody would have concentration for saying it and actually focusing on what they're saying, and focus on the meaning.
So that means the congregational prayer, the imam can so say at least silently, or still we have to do same.
No.
Yeah.
No, brother Nizam, Assalamu alaikum. We've got a verse where God says, you shall not utter your contact prayers too loudly nor secretly. Use a moderate tone, right?
Yeah.
So when the messenger of the covenant, and we've got a video of him teaching us how to do our contact prayers. He used a continuously moderate tone throughout.
Yeah.
In the Friday prayers, because he's leading the tone and he's reciting the Friday the Al-Fatih, and there are people behind him that they need to hear that. His voice is slightly higher than the other one. So he recites the Al-Fatih and then recites the rest of it moderately as well, right? So he's not too loud, he's not too secretly hush hush. He's not silent and he's not too loud. He's using moderate tone, but in differently for Al-Fatih and the other one. So he never does his prayer silently nor secretly. You need to use a moderate tone. So in the Friday prayer, yes, that's how it is. And wherever you see like the imam that is reading the Al-Fatihah, he does it somehow that everybody can hear it. So if there's a loudspeaker, they put a loudspeaker in front of him, or somehow that people can actually hear. Right? It's not that he's doing that loud and then he's keeping the rest of it secret. He's using moderate tone, but because people are standing behind him and they need to hear the Al-Fatihah, he's probably using a little bit of a louder voice, right? But his voice, he's not shouting, and he's doing it moderately in any case, right? So the people that ask is quite a logical thing. He's obviously following the verse that you shouldn't do it too loudly nor secretly, and you should use a moderate tone. That's a moderate tone, but because of this, he's leading it in those audios that we're seeing, and people need to hear him reciting the Al-Fatihah. He's doing it somehow that people behind him will hear. If there was just one person behind him, probably he will not need to just do it that strongly, but it's just for the people behind him. They need to hear it, right? So the imam, that's how it works. But he's not doing it too loudly, as you can hear. He's doing it in moderate voice, but it's a bit stronger.
No, I see. I understood. I was also the same thing. When I was, giving the example, but when I just listen, I watch the video again carefully. So there's, so when you see, you get noticed, something different. So that's why I'm, I'm asking, I was also, no, we have to do the moderate, and during until now, I am doing the same thing, the moderate tone, even the Juma prayer, and also when I pray alone. But it's now, I'm, when I watch the video carefully. So, and if you see this one, 2-3, I watched 3 videos, I think I see. No, the same thing, and it's 87, like during the 87. I didn't say 88, 89, something, anything, but 87 or some that time. So it looked like he was praying very silently, ruku and sujud times. That's my under. So that's I have to. I wanted to look at. So,
yeah. But again, brother, remember something. The videos, and the audios are from 1988. Okay, and then also there is a, I think there's what do we call it? There's a filter that Brother Suleiman applied to the files. So sometimes they sound lower than what is actually is. You know what I mean? So the thing is that you might think that when they are going to the sujud, or they are going to ruku, they're completely silent, but that's not the case, because it is a little bit lower than the frequency. Oh, okay. Brother Suleiman says that didn't apply any filter. But again, they are, I have paid attention when I'm transcribing, okay, that some of the parts that people are saying at the end of the sentences, if it is lower than a certain frequency, they sound silent, you don't hear it, okay? But the thing is that it's not that they didn't say that part of the sentence. They said it, but it's lower than a certain frequency that our ears can't hear it, and then we think that it is silent, But what the messenger of God is doing in the Friday prayers, it's not silent. It's just lower than the tone that he's reciting Al-Fatiha, so that not to get other people disturbed. That's at least my understanding when they are stating the ruku or the sujud,
Mm. Yeah, no, yeah. I want to make clear. No, I didn't say the messenger silent during the Surah Fatiha, and I didn't say the people didn't read anything. They when they are during the ruku and the sujud time, they were saying, but silently. And what I noticed is look like a couple of videos. The messenger was also doing like the little bit slow sound, even the so just that's my I noticed a couple of days ago. So that's that. I am not saying no he was praying silently. What I noticed, he was doing something like during the time of sujud and ruku. So so if you have time, maybe you can see. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, mashallah, we are all aware of that. That there are two different types of, like, in two different tones, but in none of them he has been silent. And but the thing is that when you're talking to someone, it's good to know what the point is, what they're trying to prove by their discussion. So what is the point of mentioning that? I'm aware of the, like, people out there who are trying to say that Messenger had some Sunni ideas and he was just following the Sunnis. And it's good to stay away from those people. Even the people who were around him, like Edip, are distributing those ideas and saying that he was never instructed to do the salat, and he was just following his own, education from the Sunni background. So these are, people that are dangerous. So, inshallah, your friend is not one of them. But, when someone is making the point, please try to, like, see if there is any benefit in that discussion, because there's no benefit in that. And whatever the messenger did, he's responsible for doing that. And in my opinion, that was, there's nothing even to discuss here, honestly, because we have been following what he was doing, mashallah, and God has blessed us in our life, and we see the result. So inshallah, God is pleased with us. God was pleased with him, and may God bless his soul. But the thing is that he was just doing what he was commanded to do, and it's like trying to find these delicate points, and trying to pick at the messenger, things like that is not very righteous.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I want to say, you sister, I came from the traditional Muslim background, Sunni anyway. So, and we have to remember that when the messenger came, the Prophet Muhammad came, that time also the salat prayer, the everything was existed. So he got only purified everything. So we got our practice is the traditional Muslim, so we cannot avoid this one. Oh, they are bad, they all cannot follow anything. Most of the thing God preserves some way somewhere, and we get purified. We have to purify those things, that's all. It's not like, oh, this is traditional Muslim Sunni, oh, I hate them, I don't want to do anything from
Yeah,
still.
we shouldn't have anything to do with them. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
They're corrupt
but
Muslims. They're traditionalists and they're corrupt Muslims. They're not doing anything according to the Quran. They're doing
but
everything according to the
but
Hadith.
no, but what I wanted to say, but the messenger also was the traditional Muslim, because God want to teach him, that salat. If he came from some background, he never know the
No,
salat.
what he was doing as the messenger of God had nothing to do with his background.
No,
When he was the messenger of God, he was the messenger of God, and he was doing everything according to what God has told him to do. It had nothing to do with his background.
Yeah, so God preserved this way because God wants him to learn from those things before, that's why. Yeah. And the Prophet
At
Muhammad.
1988, the messenger of God, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, announced that he was the messenger of God. So everything was already purified and everything was already clear.
No.
So there's nothing that we can say that had. Oh, I know, brother, you want to say that that it had something to do with his background. No, it hadn't. It didn't have anything to do with his background.
No. You are not the background, brother. You did misunderstood. Not the background, because so the hour the hour yeah, I mean the religious practices is God preserved somewhere, and we get from those things. It's not like we get all these things out of nothing. It's already there. So what is was there? It was in the Shia Muslim practice, in the Sunni Muslim practice. They pray Salah, they do everything. You don't find these things in the Christian. You don't find this thing in the Jewish or in the Hindus. So the practice already existed there. We just get purified messages, purified practices. That's I wanted to say. Yeah. Thank you.
So you're saying that what the messenger was doing in the congregational prayers is purified, inshallah, right?
No, yeah. So that's my point is. So messenger was doing something silently, couple of times. I was only not one video. So
Brother,
what
he
we
didn't.
supposed to do
No,
now? So you are
brother Nazam,
yeah.
brother Nazam. He didn't do it silently. He didn't do it silently. We have stated it several times in the sermons, in the Friday prayers. Messenger of God, Dr. Rashad Khalifa, did not pray the ruku or sujud silently. He did not. Let me reiterate it. He did not. Okay. So there is nothing silent about it. The only thing that sounds, I mean, the thing is that it's recorded by a microphone of a handycam. At that time it was Panasonic or Sony or something, whatever it was. Okay. And then when he was recording everything, like he was saying it in a tone which was moderate for the Al-Fatiha, so that everybody behind him could hear Al-Fatiha. And when he was going to the ruku position or the sujud position, he was saying it in a little less than that tone, so that the people behind him do not get disturbed if they want to say it in their own language. Okay. And it was by no means silent. Okay.
Okay,
It
brother.
was
Yeah.
not
So yeah,
silent. It was not
so
silent at all.
maybe when I was watching again, maybe yeah. That I wanted to just only see. Maybe I was not correct when I was listening. Maybe I was
Absolutely,
missing
yes.
some.
There are
So
several
yeah,
Friday
yeah.
sermons. There are several Friday prayers. Okay, watch all of them, and you will understand that it's not silent. It's just that it's a little bit less than the threshold that the microphone of the handycam can pick up. Then it sounds silent to you, but it is not silent, brother. It is not silent. It's a little bit lower than the threshold that the microphone can pick up. That's why to you it sounds silent, but it's not silent at all.
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear it. We can hear. Now, I am not. I can hear. We can hear it even, but it look like because of the microphone we can hear. But it look like when I'm listening, it look like
Brother,
he
it
was
doesn't
saying
look like
something.
It
the.
So
doesn't.
we
Yeah,
can.
it doesn't matter what
Yeah,
it
that's
looks like,
the.
brother.
Yeah, brother,
And I
it
think
doesn't
we
matter
need
what
to
it
learn.
looks like. It's
That's
not
it.
silent.
Uh-huh.
It is not silent. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not
That's
silent.
too. Yeah, that's
Yeah, and we have to
that's.
stay away from this topic because the thing is that Satan would create a wedge between us in this sense that out of a nonsense topic, problems could arise. And the thing is that we are how many people here? 10 people, 8 people, 9 people here. Majority of the people are saying that it's not silent, and you think that it is silent. Well, you have to listen again and then understand that it is not silent. Yes. I personally am transcribing several audios every day, and what you are saying, I'm absolutely familiar with, and I know what you're saying, brother. But it's not silent. How the messenger of God was doing ruku and sujud was not silent, and had nothing to do with his background. Everything was purified. He was the messenger of God, and he did exactly what God told him in the Quran to do. End of discussion, brother.
Okay, mashallah. Okay.
Salaam alaikum. I just want to mention that we have to consider one thing. Brother Nizam, silent in English means when you can't hear anything. So maybe when you're saying that Dr. Rashad was doing it silently, it means that you cannot hear it. But there's a difference between lower tone or silence. So maybe that will uh, make sense to you that you have using a wrong word for that. So in that case, we can go on and continue our discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, you are right. Yeah, actually, I mean the silent. That means when you are saying something as a whispering something, something like that. You are saying, but you are not saying loudly, something like that. Yeah, it's not like you completely silent and you are not. You just close your mouth. It's not like that. That's when I I feel like that. So I'll review anyway. Yeah, it's not completely silent. It's like you're saying, but it's completely little bit down. So its sound is not like moderate. Yes, yeah. So now, yeah. So all of you said no. It's already not silent. It's like little bit lower tone, lower voice. Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So this is the case. It's okay. So I don't have nothing to worry. But I was thinking, so that's even if I am not bringing this point out, so after 10 years, the people will see the video available. They will come to and see this one. So it's better to discuss. It's not like that. Sometimes you guys are saying, "Oh, this is up to
Brother
this,
Nizam.
nothing to discuss." It's not. This is where how we have to understand our religion. If we don't keep our question or our understanding, so how the people are it's not like the majority.
Brother
Messenger of
Thank
the
you,
covenant.
brother. I think Masood is trying to
Brother
show
Nizam, yes.
show something.
Let's show part of
Thank you.
the Friday prayer and see how it is done. Okay, so just give it some time, inshallah. Okay, so
Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين الله أكبر.
okay, so you mean this part, right? It's lower tone. It's not silent, brother. Okay. Again, we stated that the way that he says it is that so that he says it in a way when he's in the ruku's position, okay, so that he does not disturb other people behind him if they have to say it in their own language, for example, in English, or even if they want to say it in Arabic, okay. I myself, if like, for example, I say it loud, say Shima is behind me and we are doing the Friday prayer, okay? If I say it loud, Shima gets disturbed. And if she says it loud, I will get disturbed, in this sense that I cannot follow how many I said or where part of it I am. Unless we are saying it synchronously, which at times could be impossible, okay? So the thing is that he's saying it in a lower tone so that nobody else around him gets disturbed, but it is not silent. This is not called silent, brother.
Brother, see, he has the like the speaker there, but the
There's
way
no,
he was saying.
what do you mean there's a speaker?
No, see, when he was reciting the Surah Fatiha, and when he was saying this is a very big difference. Not only little bit different. That's why I'm
it's
asking.
lower tone. Yes,
Yeah.
it's lower tone. It's not silent, brother. It's lower tone. It's not silent or secret.
Okay, yeah.
Can I say something? I think Sister Mona's understanding is mashallah good, because I don't think like in his private prayers he used to have that higher tone for Al-Fatah. The higher tone is for the other people to be able to hear it, and to follow it silently. That's my understanding. But this one is not, the other one. So let me put it this way: the Al-Fatiha sounds, higher. That the voice sounds, more because he's
There's a
trying
lot
to
of
help.
people behind him. Yeah.
There are a lot of people, and he's trying to. It's a congregational prayer. It's not a personal prayer. It's not a one-person individual prayer.
Yes.
Helping other people to hear at the same time in the ruku and sujood, helping them with their recitation of the other parts. So he's just really like being considerate to the people behind him, and that's how.
And when he like rises from the ruku position, he says Allahu Akbar in a higher tone so that everybody understand that the ruku is done. Now they are going for the sujood, right?
Sami Allahu liman hamida. Allahu Akbar.
So that everybody knows that they have to go for the sujood. Now listen to the sujood situation.
Allahu liman hamida. Allahu Akbar. Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la.
Brothers Nizam, does this sound silent to you? Listen one more time.
Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. Allahu Akbar.
See, low, higher tone.
Allahu
Yeah,
Akbar.
it's deep. Yeah, it's deep. You see, when he was saying, so silently, like whispering. So
no, brother, it's not silent. It's lower tone. It's not silent.
He's saying whispering.
Yeah, whispering is a better word. If you want to say whisper is a better word. But it's lower
that's
tone.
what I'm saying. Yeah,
okay, but it's not silent. But because silent means secret, and you don't say it at all,
actually,
so that nobody hears it. But we are hearing it, right?
Not
like in a whispering tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, because it's lower tone so that the people behind him can also recite these phrases. Yes, mashallah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, silent means in your head, means that you don't utter anything, but this is not silent. This is lower tone.
Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. Allahu Akbar.
Okay. I think, mashallah, the question is answered, inshallah. Yes.
Okay, mashallah. Yeah, okay.
Mashallah.
Yeah, so you see, they had a little bit difference, So that's why I was thinking, you see the differences, when, So that's why I'm asking this question to understand this issue. Yeah.
Yes, but it's a little bit lower tone. Yes.
Yeah, the answer is mashallah. He's being considerate of the crowd behind him. Mashallah.
Yes, mashallah.
Okay,
yes. Yeah, but the thing is that which is in the traditional Muslim, they say that you have to recite the noon prayer and the afternoon prayer, and also that the night prayer in silent tone. That comes from the idea of saying it in your mind, or I don't know, in a very, 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 very low voice. But that's based on the hadith. It has nothing to do with the Quran, right? So, mashallah. So, brothers and sisters, if there are no other questions, if you agree, we could, God willing, we could wrap up the session, inshallah. Okay, mashallah. So, thank you everyone for attending the session, and thank you, Brother John, for leading the study. God willing, our next Quran study, English Quran study, will be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Until that time, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.